We're talking multifamily and hotels at a hotel in Cabo with TJ Tijani. This was a fun one. Make sure you stay to the end here on the Fearless Investor Podcast. Hey, Team Fearless, I just want to take a quick break from this podcast to talk about funding your furnishings. If you're listening to the Fearless Investor Podcast, then you probably want to do the Airbnb arbitrage model. Reason being, it's a low barrier of entry, right? $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to buy furniture with someone else's property. And sure, you can use your own bank account or you can raise the money at a low interest rate from a friend or family member. But wouldn't you rather get that money at 0% interest, aka free money? That's what my friends at Pathway Financial can do for you. Pathway Financial helps people like you get 0% interest credit cards so you don't have to have the financial stress of putting down a ton of money up front for your deals. Think about that for a second. How many arbitrage deals could you do if money was not a concern? Well, that could be the exact possibility with Pathway Financial's help. Get a free quote from them today. Go to fearlesskyle.com/pathway financial to find out how much you can get pre-approved for right now. And don't worry, it won't have any impact on your credit score because it's a soft inquiry. So go once again to fearlesskyle.com/pathway financial and get that free quote. Hey everyone, welcome into the Fearless Investor Podcast. Team Fearless, I'm super excited about this one because it's an in-person podcast, a very rare one because I was in Cabo with a number of different coaches for about a week, and I can't complain. It was amazing. But TJ Tijani and I were having a conversation the day before, and I was like, dude, your business is so much different. It's evolved so much in the last couple of years, and people need to hear about this. So, I mean, this guy is doing big events too. He's been with Robert Kiyosaki, Chris Crone, Cody Sperber, just all of these big names in real estate. And he's right there next to them. He's riding in cars with them. He's doing content with them. Like he's just completely blown up. And for that reason, I wanted to get him on the podcast. And I want you to really listen to all the things he has going on and, keep everything with a grain of salt, right? You don't have to start as many businesses as TJ. You don't have to do all these giant deals, but you can take at least one thing from this talk today with TJ Tijani. So let's go ahead and get to it right now on the Fearless Investor Podcast. All right, bro. Here in Cabo.
Bro, we're in Cabo right now.
Yeah, we got
it's a different podcast.
Drinks in hand.
It's only right. It's only right.
Not a bad life. Not a bad life. But I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about some stuff. And I want to start it off with a little icebreaker. You told me a really cool story in the pool earlier today about how you got your name, TJ.
Oh, yeah,
so I don't know if you ever told this on camera or on a podcast before.
No, I haven't actually.
I want people to hear it.
So it's interesting because TJ, most people think that that's like my initial.
Yeah.
And Tijani is my last name. A lot of people think that Tijani is actually my first name, but it's my last name. Taufik Tijani is my full name. It's interesting because Tijani is actually a unison. Like it could be a first or a last name where I'm from.
Wow.
In the part of Nigeria I'm from, in Kano. A lot of people have Tijani first names, like a lot of people, or it could be a last name.
Interesting.
And so TJ, essentially, when people know that my name, both my first and my last name start with a T, I tell people like, the TJ just comes from Tijani. It's just extracted from the Tijani, my last name. But I didn't give myself that name, which is what's interesting.
Yeah.
So I moved to the United States when I was 8 years old from Nigeria. And
where specifically?
In Houston,
okay.
Texas. Moved to Houston, Texas. And as you can imagine, things were interesting. As a young kid from Nigeria, didn't know what the heck. It was a heck of a culture shock. Kids were mean as heck growing up, and they were having a field day with my name. They called me all kind of stuff, and I had a bully. He called me all kind of names, and then one day we were in class, and he started saying, "I'm gonna call you TJ." He was just trying to almost to him, he was kind of trying to take the power away from my name. Like, look, okay. I'm just gonna abbreviate you. I'm just gonna just not call you what you want to be called.
Was
Taufik Tijani. And I would look back like, my name is Taufik.
Yeah.
You're gonna call me by my real name.
Yeah, not TF, not TK.
Not TK, not Tafuk, not all the stuff that you were saying.
Yeah.
Not TJ either. And so, but as a lot of people were always making fun of my name. It's so much so that I actually got used to it at a point in time. And so, and he would call me TJ, and I would not answer. He'd be like, TJ. He'll be in the back of the class, and I'm just ignoring him. I'm looking at the teacher like, no, you're not going to do something, tell this guy to leave me the heck alone.
Yeah.
And she'll be like, Bruce, leave him alone. But I noticed that he kept calling me TJ, and the other students in the class started calling me TJ. And when more people called me TJ, the bullying stopped, and it started just slowing down, and it just went away. And then I just became TJ. Then I just decided, I was like, man, you know what? I'm gonna step into this TJ thing.
Okay, just lean into it.
I'm gonna just lean into it heavy.
Yeah.
And I started going by TJ. What's your name, TJ? And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And it's literally been TJ ever since. And that's how I got my name. I didn't even give myself that name.
Oh, we just had a power outage here.
This is interesting.
We're good? You're plugged in? Everything's good? Okay.
It's like we're
That's
going
our
back
second
on
power outage
That's
here in
the second
Cabo.
time it's happened while we're here, right?
Hey, at least we don't have to hear that song on replay anymore.
It's about to come back on.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, by the way, keeping all this in the podcast.
Yes.
I'm not editing that
This
out.
is awesome.
So now I really hope Bruce is actually listening to this right now. And he's going to be like, I've been looking for this guy.
Yeah,
So.
I don't know his last name. I tried to look him up before, but I don't know his full name.
Yeah.
So if he's watching this, reach out to me, bro. Let's chop it up.
That's awesome. All right, so, bro, last time we had you on the podcast, 2021.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Clubhouse and Arbitrage and all those things were going on in your life. A little bit different now. Why don't you catch us up?
Man, so it's crazy because, I was screaming Arbitrage at the top of my lungs, and Arbitrage is awesome. We still Arbitrage heavy. A lot of folks believe that my claim to fame into this business is the Arbitrage strategy, but I actually owned my very first short-term rental.
Okay.
I was burning both ends of the candle, but Arbitrage, it's a lower barrier to entry. I've been doing real estate. I was a wholesaler. I was a fix and flipper. I was doing creative financing. I was wholesaling creative financing deals. And so
long before you arbitrage.
Long before I started even got into the short-term rental business. So for me, I was like, okay, that real estate aspect took me, I've been doing that. So let me just show people how to just get into it right now. That's why I just only focus on arbitrage. Even though I was owning, and that's when then later I started incorporating, look, y'all need to start owning these assets too. Let me show you how to leverage private capital to own it. Let me show you how to own it with creative financing, because that component is going to be important as well. So now things are different. My portfolio actually, even at the time, probably when we did that podcast, my portfolio was probably a 40 to 60% in terms of ownership versus arbitrage, with arbitrage being 60 and ownership being 40. Now we're more like 80-20.
Ownership.
With ownership 80 and arbitrage being about 20%, simply because of probably just the nature of the natural progression in this business, right? So we're doing bigger deals.
I was going to say a large majority probably from the hotels.
Exactly. The hotels, the boutique hotels, it's multiple doors in one location. Now, instead of me buying one building that's one unit, I'm buying one building that's multiple units. Yeah. So that's definitely what changed the scale. And so, which is amazing. And I love having multiple doors in one location.
Absolutely.
Because of the opportunities that come with it, not just from an operational perspective, because operations become easier as well.
Yep.
And the experience that you can provide for the guest is awesome, and the opportunity to make even extra income, because when you have multiple doors in one location, you can brand that building.
Absolutely.
When you brand that building, you can treat it like a hotel. I was just talking to my wife about, I said, hey, we need to see, I want to experiment with collecting people's credit cards for incidentals for the hotels only.
Okay.
For the hotels, not for any of the STRs, just like a traditional branded hotel does.
Yeah.
And honestly, our next purchase will likely be a branded hotel. We've been underwriting a lot of these branded hotel deals all year, and I think that's probably what the motivation is, and just seeing how they operate, taking things from them and seeing how we can incorporate in our boutique hotels. And that was one of the things that that kind of hit my mind. Like, you know what? They take the cards for incidentals. I remember when we went to Encore in Boston. We were at the Encore Hotel. It was actually a resort in Boston, and we were sat in the Encore Hotel, and they told us at the front desk, they said, hey, when you walk into your room, you'll see this tray, but it's a pressure tray. So you'll see a bunch of snacks and some really cool, unique chocolates and your nuts and all that stuff.
Sure.
They said, if you take something off that table for 30 seconds, you've bought it, pretty much.
Even if you put it back?
Even if you put it back.
Wow.
So she said, if you pick something up off the table, even if it's past 30 seconds, you might as well enjoy it because you bought it. Right.
Wow.
That was one of the things that they had. And I was like, wow, all kinds of stuff.
Streams.
Multiple streams.
Yeah.
Exactly. What's crazy is that we walked in that room and I saw the pressure tray and we saw the snacks they had, and everything looks really high end, like they're own branded. The chocolates were branded for the Encore, the nuts, even the water. They had a water that was branded that was on there, all kind of snacks, all branded with the hotel brand. Yeah. And so we were in there, and I told my wife, and I said, look, this is how they get people. See, that's how they get, they ain't gonna get us. They ain't gonna get us like that. We were sitting there, this is day 3 at the resort.
Okay.
We're sitting there watching a movie. We're watching Netflix, just chilling in the room. I'm looking at them snacks.
Now you're tempted.
I'm looking at the snacks, and I looked at my wife, I said, man, Yo, let's crack open these snacks, man. Why did we destroy everything on the freaking pressure tray?
Oh my gosh,
we ate
yeah.
all the snacks while we were chilling, watching, enjoying the movie, and we were just laughing at ourselves. But it made so much sense. And that was another light bulb moment for me. Like, look, there's a lot of things from an operational perspective that hotels get right. And that's actually one of the way they operate is one of the things that benefits them the most, because they have Airbnb beat on consistency. The consistency is, if I book a Hampton Inn in Houston, I'm booking Hampton Inn in Phoenix, Arizona, it's the same Hampton Inn, the same breakfast, the same processes. That's one thing I noticed about the hotels versus a lot of people that will book an Airbnb, maybe have a good experience here and a bad experience here.
Sure.
And a great experience here. The inconsistency is what allows us to lose guests to hotels.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times when we lose a guest to hotels, we're not getting them back in the Airbnb platform. To me, this is a bigger tragedy than any other news and stuff with revenue going down and stuff, even though revenue is actually up year over year. But to me, that's a bigger tragedy than just Airbnb bust, is quality hosts. We actually need more quality hosts in the Airbnb space because most people aren't doing it right. If we can have more quality consistency in the Airbnb space, it's actually going to help the entire ecosystem of the short-term rental space. Yeah. But I take a lot of lessons and a lot of things from hotels and incorporate in our boutique hotels. And back to kind of like that example of collecting a credit card for incidentals, that's something that we're going to try to do. And we're going to have our own branded stuff that we can have. We're going to have other things that we're going to add value to. Maybe did you forget something, like, did you forget basket? Yeah. Maybe we charge for that. We're looking at providing alcohol in the listing, some type of alcohol that if they take it, they open it, they bought it, right? And we collect the payments from incidentals. So a lot of the ways that the hotels do their things.
So just a deeper question on that. Yeah. That's one of the things that we talk about all the time, right? Is like making the short-term rental industry stronger by educating and helping people be better hosts. But there's just still it's almost like having a kid, right? There's no pre-screening process for you to have a kid. You can just go out and have a kid, right? And same thing with an Airbnb. Like the Airbnb is not pre-screening you. Your county's typically not pre-screening you. None of that's going on. It's just like, all right, you want to open a business, go for it. So how do you feel like have you thought about this to a deep enough level where it's like, maybe here's a way that we can be more consistent like the hotel industry, that when someone books on Airbnb, they know they're going to get this kind of experience. You ever thought about that?
Yeah.
It's tough, I know.
It's tough. Yeah. Because the hotel is just one owner with one process and multiple units. Yeah. Airbnb
multiple owners.
Multiple owners. This owner can have one property, this one can have 5, this one can have 2. Multiple owners, so it's going to be really hard to nail down this consistency piece.
Do you think Airbnb needs to take more of
that's what I was just about
active,
to get. I was just about to get to.
Here's how you host. Exactly. Here's what you need to do. We're not going to let you text off the platform. You need to do this, this, and this. Like, what kind of things do you think they should implement to be able to do that?
To me, what they would have to implement, standards. Standards in terms of. It could be review standards. It could be quality standards in terms of your photos. It could be quality standards in terms of your actual listing description. But if they actually said that, hey, you can't use this platform until you actually reach this standard. If you're actually this quality. And so that may be one of the ways.
One of the things I've seen recently is, about once a month now, we see a notification that, hey, your listing is in jeopardy of being delisted, or sometimes it even gets delisted. Yeah. And that seems to be a more proactive role that Airbnb has taken these days, because even if it's not a legitimate complaint, even if that complaint comes across the desk, there's like that 3 to 5 day period of like the research that's being done by Airbnb to see if this is a legitimate complaint. And during that time, they're like, hey, you're in jeopardy of getting deactivated. Yeah. And to me, maybe that's Airbnb's efforts to say like, hey, we're going to hold the host to a higher standard. Yeah. So, which is both a good and a bad thing, I guess. For hosts like us that we're like, hey, we know we're doing the right thing, and like the guests are just being kind of jerks about this whole thing and trying to get a refund. But if you have a one-off host like what you're talking about, someone who's trying to run a mom and pop shop, have no idea what they're doing, think it's okay to not have hot water in their property at any time. Those are the kind of hosts we don't want on the platform anymore.
We don't want them hosts. And I tell people, man, the times have changed. When I got into the Airbnb space back in 2017, I didn't need much to be successful. Nobody
Yeah.
needed much to be very successful in this business. You probably could have picked up a couch off the street and be successful in the Airbnb. Times
I
have
say you
changed.
could have listed a tent.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Right. And with the time changing and the time that we're at right now, 2023, expectations have also changed.
Yeah.
And people expect more. People expect better quality stuff. And so if you're not emphasizing the guest experience, or you're not emphasizing amenities, you're not emphasizing design, then you will get left in the dust. Everything that we're talking about right now, that viral post, I mean, you posted content about it. A lot of short-term rental hosts posted content about that one screenshot. Oh, revenue's down 40% here,
right.
50% here. This market, this market, this market, and it's crazy because that we have that post that's kind of going around. What we're finding is that revenue's not actually down. Revenue's up. It's almost like revenue's up 10%, but supplies up 40%.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have increased revenue, but we have more hosts sharing that pie of the increased revenue. And so that's more so what we're seeing. And so what we're finding out is that it's not that the revenue's down, it's that the income is floating to certain hosts, and the hosts that are slacking are getting left in the dust.
It's like being a realtor when you've been in the real estate game or you've been serious about being a realtor for the last 5 years, and then 2020 hits, and then everyone and their mom becomes a realtor in 2021 and 2022. You as the realtor, knowing I've been in this game for a while, all these pretenders are going to come in and they're going to maybe get like 5%, 10% of the market share. But I'm going to be in this for the long haul. I mean, I know that this is either a phase, or if I do things the right way, all the money will flow to me because I do this the right way. I kind of see Airbnb as the same patterns. However, I will say, our properties that are the basic 3-bedroom, 2-bath, maybe not in a good location, nothing really unique about the amenities. No matter how well I market that thing, I can only make a Big Mac look so good. You know what I mean? Like you go and see a Big Mac on a TV commercial, and then you go and buy it in real life, and you're like, it's not as good. But they still can make it look good on camera.
Absolutely.
You can only make an Airbnb look so good. If I'm looking for a hot tub and you don't have a hot tub, I'm not going to look at your property.
That's facts.
And that's what I'm finding on a lot of ours. What about yours?
Oh yeah, no, that's very, very true. And for me, and it's crazy what you just said on the amenities tip. It's more than just having amenities as well. You have to make sure you manage and maintain those amenities properly. Right. So we're finding, like, in our listing, the ones that are like crushing it, like our bigger units are crushing it, by the way. Like our 3 bedrooms, like 8 that sleeps 8 and above, they're crushing it. Cool. Even one of our boutique hotels right now we have a guest that booked 4 units at the same time.
Oh wow.
They have 4 units, but it's 12 of them. And each of these units sleep 4 people, right? And so, but they booked all 4 for 12 people. And so we're finding a lot of success in those kind of listings. We're finding a lot of success in our bigger listings. And so, but the ones, I just got a message from our listing yesterday. The guest walked in and said that, man, this is the nicest Airbnb I've ever been in.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? But that's one of our boutique hotels that we went all out, made it super nice, decked it out, because you have to focus on design these days.
What's so nice about, like, give me a few things that make it different.
Oh man, porcelain tile, quartz countertops, the design aspect of it, the color schemes, the themes that we have in it. It has a dope back porch area that you can sit and chill on. The front porch is dope. Things like that. We have experiences to where that guest, actually, they booked a hibachi experience.
Oh, wow.
So they actually had the hibachi come set up in the front of the building. So they had the whole building. They had the hibachi come set up. It was a mobile hibachi. So they had the whole thing going.
So do you contract them and take a little bit off the top?
And I get 20% of the reservation. So
there you go.
So we contract them, and they come in and they sit up and they were tossing their mouth and doing all that jazz.
Nice.
And so that was cool. And then the guests will post it on their Instagram, and so that's another, again, boutique. When you're able to have a brand with a product with one of your buildings, man, people say, man, I stayed at this spot and this is the name of it, and man, you should check it out.
Yeah.
See, to me, that's why I love multiple doors in one location. There's things like that you won't necessarily be able to easily get with a single family or a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. That's why I like multiple doors in one location. For sure.
So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. I'm brand new. I've got 1 listing. I've got 2 listings, somewhere around there. I hear this podcast and I hear this Hibachi Idea, and my goal is to make, let's call it $10,000 a month to leave my job. And I hear this Hibachi Idea. I'm like, oh, I could go do that. would you rather, if you're coaching someone or you're telling someone, hey, you want to get to $10,000 a month, would you rather them go and get more units or add, kind of like play it like Monopoly where you're adding more value to each one of the units?
Yeah, that's a dang good question. I will probably say a little bit of both, honestly, because you have to literally squeeze the most out you can out of your listing. You have to see how you can add more value, but in adding more value, make more money, make more income. What can you do to add additional income? There's not one hotel, not one, that just makes money from reservations. Not one. A lot of hotels, even my business partners that own a bunch of hotels, they try to have the add-ons cover as much expenses as possible. That way the actual income is cash flow for their investors that they can make, cash flow for themselves. And so you have to see how you can get the most out of your listing. And trust me when I tell you, there's more that you can get out of your listing once you really think through it. So that aspect is important as well. But this business gets easier with scale at the same time.
It does.
I truly believe that. I think this business gets easier with scale. And so you have to scale at some point. If you're trying to really fire yourself, you have to scale. We found in our business, when you get to about 3 VAs, it gets pretty hands-off. Yeah. At least for us in our business. I have a COO, she's my general manager, she's pretty much my COO, then 3 VAs under her. About 2 hours a week in my business, literally, that's it. But you can't do that with 3 doors and 2 doors. So that's why I said a little bit of both is probably going to be important because you need to get the most out of your listing. And that's why I love to say, get one, get it good, then scale. If you can squeeze as much juice out of your listing, you'll be able to transition that same package to the other listing that you're gonna get. So I'll probably say a little bit of both is gonna be important. Sure.
I like that. I think for me, the process that I went through was so natural that we went right after COVID from 7 units to 25 in like overnight because everyone saw, hey, whatever Kyle's doing, it's still working. Even it survived even COVID, and so we had all these clients come in, and so those 7 that we had created, like that was our model. We were just going to go copy that. What I like about what you're saying is, had we just said, hey, how can we squeeze the most juice out of these 7 units? Maybe that model by unit 8 to 25 would have been a little bit different, a little bit more lucrative. But it's tough to change that. That's the toughest thing about this business, right? When you get to 15, 20 units and you want to make one change, you want to change that lock from a Schlag to a Yale.
You got to
that's going to take a year. That's going to take a year.
That's going to take...
It's going to take a long time.
You might have 2 or 3 different locks for a little bit until you switch everything over.
I think there's that balance, right?
There is that balance.
And Mike, our good friend, talks about this all the time. Like, what's the goal? What's going to get you to that goal the fastest? If you think it's going to be hard for you to have a lot of leads coming in, then get the biggest juice out of all those squeezes. But if you think you're going to have leads out the yin-yang, like, stop trying to make every one of them perfect. Just, like, get them up, get them going, and sometimes you just got to figure it out along the way.
Yeah, that's facts. That's facts.
So I want to ask you a question before we get into hotels a little bit deeper. You started with arbitrage from the short-term rental perspective. I know you were doing real estate investing before, but now today, like you said, it's kind of flipped, and you own a lot more. Do you think for a new person today, arbitrage is still an opportunity?
I think arbitrage is still a great opportunity. I truly believe that. There's a lot of volatility in the market, and that provides opportunity. I think arbitrage is still a great way. One thing but you have to arbitrage the right way. One of my students, they had an opportunity for a building. It was a triplex. And they were talking to the landlord. The landlord was intrigued enough to rent them the property, but the landlord was like, well, I want you to pay $500 more a month per unit because you're going to be making money on it, right? And so I want you to pay more. And so I said, don't do that deal. He said, don't do it. I mean, you're still going to be profitable. I said, don't do that deal. If you arbitraging, you have to understand the value that you bring at the same time. And this is one of the biggest game changers for me that I had to realize as an arbitrager. As you could imagine how many conversations I had with landlords that didn't go well at all to really nail down what they need and understanding their pain points. But at the same time, what was really the game changer is not just nailing down my scripts and knowing what to say, was the confidence that I brought into the conversation. And that confidence comes well with understanding the value you bring as the perfect tenant, because if you're doing arbitrage right, that's exactly what you'll be. It's the perfect tenant.
Yep.
Nobody's going to take care of this property the way you are. Nobody's going to make sure their rent's paid on time the way you are. You are the value here. So why should you pay more? So I told that student, I said, okay, talk to the landlord, say, hey, okay, if I was a regular tenant that wasn't trying to make money, you'll charge me the regular rents. And now I'm a regular tenant, and you honestly don't know what you're getting with a regular tenant. I know you did a background check and all that.
I'm going to call you at 11 p.m. with a leaky toilet.
Exactly.
But guess what? I'm going to call you all my problems.
All those problems. But guess what? We're going to come in. You know what you're getting. We're trying to make money. So here's the thing. We have to take care of this building. Matter of fact, we're going to take the maintenance issues off your hands up to $200, and that's negotiable. I can say up to $300, up to $500.
Yeah.
We always start with $200, up to $200. Any maintenance issues, so that clogged toilet, that random hole on the wall, that leaky secondary drain valve from your water heater that's causing a leak, we'll handle that at our expense. And if there's something major going on, we'll let you know about it. We can still oversee it and bring our contracts to do it if you want us to, and we can maybe take it out the rents or just invoice you for it, make it easy for you. We are valuable to you here. We are literally going to be the best tenant you ever had. Why should I pay more? Why?
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
Meanwhile, a regular tenant, you might not know about that hole in the wall until they leave 5 years later.
Exactly.
I literally just put one of my properties up on Zillow to change it from a short-term rental to a long-term rental. And I got a call from a guy who was like, hey, are you interested in doing corporate rentals? And I was like, I'm not just interested. If you have some experience, you got it.
Yeah.
Like, I would much rather continue to rent this to someone who's doing Airbnb.
Yeah.
If you want to do it your way, I know this property is going to be taken care of much better than a long-term renter.
Yep.
And a lot of people might be wondering, like, well, then why don't you just keep doing it as a short-term rental? Well, I live in Fresno. The property was in Arizona. We ended our relationship with our business partner in Arizona for that reason. I'm like, I don't want to deal with just one property remotely. If I'm going to, and this goes back to kind of what you and I were talking about, you've got to get to a certain point where you can grow this business, especially if you're going to do this remotely. If I live in Las Vegas, I can't do Airbnb in Las Vegas. So if I'm going to go do this in, let's say, Salt Lake City, which is not too far away, or Phoenix, Arizona, which is not too far away, I'm a big believer that you can't just scale in one area with one property and then go to the next one. You have to scale in that area and then maybe think about the next area. So have you scaled to a different location than Houston? And if so, why, or have you not?
So we're still all in Houston.
Oh, wow. That's
I am
awesome.
all in Houston right now.
Good for you, man.
But what's great, and it makes the business a lot easier. But
right?
we will,
it does,
absolutely. But we will likely be in another market, likely about 80% chance, another market by the end of the year for sure.
But going back to hotels, legitimately, it is a different exit strategy than short-term rentals. You don't have to worry about the short-term rental laws, which is great.
Yep.
So how did you get into hotels? What did that transition look like?
Yeah, again, kind of like the natural progression we talked about earlier, right? So for me, it was single-family houses, 2 to 4 unit buildings, which we evaluate and we run the numbers very similar to single-family houses. And so my 2 to 4 unit buildings that were full-time short-term rentals, I realized that everything about those buildings were better. They made more money. Running them was easier. I can rent all 3 units at the same time to a large group and make a ton more money. So I was like, man, I want more multiple doors in one location. So I started looking for kind of apartment complexes. I said, all right, I was buying an apartment complex, so I started looking for hotels as well. I actually started looking for hotels at first, like small hotels, mom and pop stop hotels, boutique hotels. So I started looking for small hotels, and I started noticing something very interesting, because a lot of these hotels are owned by people that have had it for a long time with their family, and they don't necessarily keep proper books. And so we started offering creative options to them. And so the other side to that is buying multifamily assets, and we just run them as hotels. To me, it's crazy. Like when I talk to people about that, they're like, damn, that's interesting. To me, it was just such a no-brainer. Like it came to me so naturally.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I'll just buy a multifamily the same way I know how to buy real estate. I'll just make the whole building an Airbnb and just brand it and rent it as a hotel. And so that was my first boutique hotel. So my first boutique hotel, every single one of those units is a full suite, full bathroom, full kitchen, full everything.
There you go.
But we run it like a hotel. And so then I got into that. That's what got me into boutique hotels. Not what got me underwriting and looking into flagship hotels was my business partner. My business partner came into the mix, and he owned a bunch of hotels already. And so then I was like, this is a link.
And flagship hotel is
branded hotels. We're talking about Marriott's, we're talking your Hiltons and your ISG products, your Holiday Inns or Crown Plazas and things like that. Then there's Choices, which is, your sleep inns and your comfort inns and things like that, which is the lower end, Best Westerns and things like that, Mobile Six. Those brands. What's interesting in the hotel space is very different because you underwrite hotels like a commercial deal, just like a multifamily. It's just higher cap rates. And at the same time, a hotel is way more than just real estate. It's a business. Every hotel you own is a business. And you have to treat it as such. And because there's the real estate aspect, yes, you own a hotel, and it's interesting how a lot of people think that when they see a Marriott, they think Marriott owns it, or they think Hilton owns that hotel, like just Hilton as a company. Yeah. These are individual people, just like me and you, that just own that franchise. These are franchises.
But they adopt those systems from that franchise.
And they adopt the systems from the franchise.
And that's the difference between short-term rentals.
Oh, very different. Matter of fact, these franchises, like, they have requirements on the standard that you have to keep. Like, for example, Marriott, every 5 to 7 years, you have to rehab your property.
Wow.
You have to rehab it to the upgraded standards because they're not. Why do you think you've never seen a dated Marriott?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's crazy.
A super dated Marriott, you won't. Maybe if you see a Marriott that's dated, they're getting towards the tail end of have to undergo renovations. They have to, and that's one of the things that is very different when you talk about branded hotels.
So you keep saying I run it like a hotel. What's the difference between running it like a hotel? What does that look like compared to a short-term rental?
Yeah, so when you run it like a hotel, and different hotels are different. Like you can have, maybe you have to have a person there. You have a front desk. You have to have a person there at all times. Maybe you don't. Maybe it could be completely hands-off. You don't. You can run it just like a boutique and be completely hands-off where you don't have to have staff there. But it's very different in the processes. In terms of having multiple doors in one location, your turnover process is a little bit different. The way you manage it, in terms of having, like, I'll probably say the experiences that you could bring to the guest. For each guest that you bring into the hotel, that experience is going to be it's going to be like a hotel kind of feel.
So I've always thought about getting my own boutique hotel, right? Like, I would say maybe like 10 units or more, right? Like you can kind of consider that like a boutique hotel?
Yes, I think I'll say boutique is probably, some will say 100 and less. I'll say 80 keys or less that's not branded.
Okay.
It's a self-brand. That it could be a brand that you create, a mom and pop brand that maybe's been in the family, but it's not a Marriott, it's not an ISG product, it's not a Crown Plaza, it's not none of that stuff.
But from an operational standpoint, one of my thoughts was if I had 10 or more, maybe it would behoove me to make one of those units like an on-site manager who gets crazy low rent or maybe even lives there for free, and like it's their job to kind of treat that as their franchise, so that it's not a burden on my team or not a burden on me.
Exactly.
Would that be
that's a massive factor, and that's a good value that you can add too, because you can have somebody stay there and either not charge them anything and give them a super low rate, which is super beneficial, or you can have somebody that maybe they live close by and still run it, right? And so that piece is important as well. We looked at a 25 unit in Point Pleasant Beach in New Jersey. So me and my partner actually flew out there to look at it. The 25 unit, they had somebody there on site. They had one unit that was a full apartment, and that's where the on-site manager actually stayed, and they ran the entire thing. But what's interesting is that they had an on-site manager that ran it, but they actually outsourced the entire management of the hotel.
Wow.
I just got a DM yesterday that said, hey, I have a hotel deal. If you're interested in it, the seller's interested in selling it or just letting you master lease the whole thing, right? And so that's it's almost like an arbitrage play just on steroids, like legit. Yeah. We looked at a boutique hotel in Miami Beach on Collins Avenue. They had a decent NOI. The NOI was like 1.6 million. They were asking about 22 million for the property, but they were outsourcing the entire building. The owner literally just collects 120K a month, and he owns it free and clear. Wow. The operator just pays him flat 120K a month. Wow. But the operator makes more than that. Like he's cleaning up at the same time.
Very nice.
Very nice. So you can have a hotel and just outsource the entire thing, arbitrage the entire thing out, and
Wow.
just collect a flat fee. So you can do that. You can arbitrage your entire hotel as well. You can do that. Now, that doesn't happen a lot in the branded side.
Yeah.
The branded side is you own the brand.
You have to go by the systems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's different when you own a brand. Now you can have a 100 key boutique hotel or Marriott, 100 key Marriott. That's about 10 to 20 staff members right there. That's gonna run it. Now the key thing is that the actual brand can provide that staff for you that's trained to manage and run for that brand, because Marriott has a different way that they do their breakfast and the things like that, and the cleaning process and the operation is very different the way Hilton does it and the way other brands do it. So you can have an operation company that's trained for that brand to run it for you. And then you can also have the asset management ran for you, which is the back end stuff, the bookkeeping and the payrolls and stuff like that. That could be handled by the staff from the brand itself, or you can do it yourself, right? But you can have them run it. But of course, the royalty that you'll pay to them goes up about 5% if you have them run it for you. So that's another key difference between the hotel versus versus a short-term rental.
So I want to talk underwriting right now. Single family home, right? I've got cash on cash return, also known as ROI and cash flow. We've got the debt pay down by the tenant, we got the tax advantages, and we got the appreciation. Right. So I'm judging my return based on 4 different factors on that. But with hotels and commercial, right, we've started adding in things. You already mentioned it, like NOI and cap rate. Talk to me like a second grader right now. What are those additional factors that you look at when you go to identify these deals and how you underwrite them to make sure that this is a deal or not?
There's a lot more involved metrics when it comes to commercial deals like hotels and multifamily. The reason why is because you literally, in most of those cases, you raise money, you raise capital to purchase these assets, and you have to be able to not only give your investors a good return, you need to be able to literally, in plain paper, show them how they're getting their returns, what kind of returns they're getting, what to expect. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? But they need to know within the exit plan. And with multifamily or hotels, there's always a hold period. It's called a hold period. Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? There's a hold period. A hold period doesn't mean you have to sell it at the end of that hold period. Maybe you refinance it at the end of that hold period. But at the end of that hold period, the investors need to get all their money back. Everything that was promised to them, they need to get that back. So that's why there's a lot more metrics involved.
And that whole period is determined by when you underwrite the deal.
When we underwrite
you can tell your investors what that's going to be.
And we just tell them what it is. And maybe, and it's usually that whole period tends to be based on the vision or the goals of the GPs, of the people that structured the deal. So they say, hey, we plan on this is a 3-year hold. This is a 5-year hold. This is a 10-year hold. We're more long-term with it. And a lot of times what could happen is, okay, maybe we decide on a 5-year hold. 5 years come, we decide we want to hold on to it. We'll just refinance and just keep it and get everybody cashed out. So that can easily happen as well. But nonetheless, there's so many metrics that you have to consider, because not just one metric tells the whole story. For example, there's a very important metric called the IRR, which is called the internal rate of return, which is also based on time. It's a time valued return metric. For example, if we bought a $10 million building right now, and I say that, hey, it's a 5-year hold period, and there's going to be a 15% IRR return within the next 5 years, which is good. And you're going to make if at 15% IRR, which is good, but if we were to do a 3-year hold period, right, that IRR changes to maybe 21 to 22% IRR. But at the same time, we're not discounting all the additional money we could have made by holding it longer, right? But we're going to make a lot less money, but the IRR is more. That's why you can't just base it off the IRR, because we might say that, okay, well, that's great. The IRR sounds good, and that's it. But you're missing out on a lot of money. That's why you have to
just to clarify for everyone, an IRR is going to factor in what on top of cash flow?
So the IRR factors in the cash flow that you're going to be making, plus the exit event. Plus the exit event. So, for example, if there's a 5-year hold, you're going to make, let's say 7% cash on cash every year, average yearly return. But at the end, you're gonna make. You say you invested 100K, you're gonna get another 100K at the very end, right? So now
That's
now
another 100%.
Exactly. So it's over 100. That's over 100% if you include the cash flow, right? So, but if that's a 5-year hold period, but let's say we do a 2-year hold period or a 3-year hold period, and that 100% turns to 50%. Because now the property's not worth as much as it would be 10 years from now or 5 years from now. If we sold it in 2 years, it's worth less. So now you're not going to make as much, but the IRR goes up because the IRR is time sensitive.
Exactly.
And so that's why you can't just say, okay, we have a good IRR number, this is a good deal. Or we have a good cap rate, this is a good deal. You have to also factor in metrics like equity multiple, for example. Equity multiple simply means that, hey, if you have an equity multiple of 2, that means that, hey, you put in 100K, you're gonna get a whole 100K back. You just doubled your money. That's equity multiple. So if I say, hey, we're giving an IRR of 15% over 5 years, equity multiple of 2. Now, that tells a bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why you have to consider that as well. Okay, what is the cash on cash? Okay, or is that a pref? Or is there a pref? A pref is another metric that you have to talk to your investors about. Which is a guaranteed return. So, hey, we have a pref of 6%. That means we're going to pay you out 6% before we take anything.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you cash flow. Even if you're in the negative, I'm going to get a guarantee.
Exactly. You have a guarantee before we even take anything. And so that's a pref. Is there a pref involved? Maybe there's not. Maybe there is. So all these measures, the average cash on cash, pref, equity multiple, IRRs, also cap rates, of course, that's important as well.
Dumb down cap rate for me.
Cap rate essentially is the capitalization rate on a deal. How much more return? As if you paid cash for it, what are returns you're getting on a property as if you pay cash, right?
So if I invest $100,000 and I buy that property for cash, even though I'm not going to, let's say $1 million, more realistic, and I make $100,000 year one without any mortgage.
Without any mortgage. That's a 10% cap. Exactly. Divide the 100,000 by that purchase. That's your cap rate. That's a 10%. That's a 10% cap. Exactly. Literally, that's as if you pay cash. As if you pay cash for it. That's what the cap rate is. But see, the cap rate doesn't tell the whole story at all. At all. No. We usually just use cap rates to realize, do we want to end this deal or not? Is the deal even worth our time? That's what we use cap rate for. And then now all the other metrics that we have to tap in on to make sure that and everything is to make sure that your investors are making money. When you do deals like this, you're raising money, especially if it's a syndication, you have to take care of your investors first.
So, Team Peerless, what I want you guys to hear right now is that this is a lot. There's a lot going on, right? We're usually talking about, hey, I invest $20,000 for arbitrage, or I get someone else to let me co-host their property, and I'm making this return, and like it's an easy situation. But for all of this, there's so many different metrics that go into it. What I love about the conversations that we've had here in Cabo is that, bro, you're actually helping people by underwriting deals, getting on the phone with sellers. Like just break down for a second. If someone was like, all right, I want to get into hotels or I want to get into bigger deals like TJ's doing, how can I get TJ's help? What does that look like?
Well, so we can definitely tap in, and we actually started a hotel mastermind, and we're going to be focused on boutique hotels and branded hotels as well. So all hotels alike, whether it's boutique, whether there's a Marriott, whether there's a Crown Plaza, whatever the case may be, and boutiques as well. And one of the great things, and I love doing this for my students now, is being on calls with them, helping them structure their deals, helping them put their deals together. And that's one of the most valuable things that I do, and I love it. I'm not gonna lie, I get kind of geeky with it. We run through these numbers, especially with creative financing. That creative finance is a whole nother piece. And people don't even realize creative financing is easier with hotels. It's easier.
Oh, I'm sure, because there's less buyers.
There's less buyers.
There's
less buyers, and on top of that, and I know this is a slight segue, but on top of that, for example, sub 2. If I take a property over sub 2 as a single family home, I'm taking it over sub 2. The loan still stays in your name because just because you're on title don't mean you have to be on a note. So you can be on a note, but I can own it and be on title. So you can still own the debt while I own the property. So with sub 2, with a single family home, I would just take over your loan. Honestly, the lender's none the wiser. The lender's still okay because they're still getting their payments, no problem. We have to make sure that the paperwork is good. You got to do all that jazz, but nonetheless, a very legal process. Nothing wrong with it. Buying a property sub 2. We just had one of my students last week just close on a property sub 2.
Nice.
So that's normal. But see, the difference is single family. The lender's none the wiser. The lender is none the wiser of what's actually happening with that property. With multifamily hotels, every time we get a deal, first question we ask, Does it have a loan on it? And is it assumable? See, assumable loans are different from subject to. A subject to, I'm not assuming the loan, I'm just taking over the loan.
Okay.
The loan is still in your name. An assumption, if I'm assuming the loan, the loan is no longer in your name, moving you out of the note, I am now assuming the loan. I am on a note now. But that's okay with bigger deals. Why? Because it doesn't report to our credit or anything.
Yeah.
A lender literally will just qualify you. The last deal we underwrote, we're looking at, we had a Zoom call, myself, my business partner, our agent, the lender, on the phone, on a Zoom call. Oh, seller. Myself, business partner, seller, both of our agents, lender.
Crazy.
On the phone. Never ever happen with single family.
Yeah.
With multifamily, lender is like, yeah, the loan's assumable. It's at 3.8%. We just need to qualify you to make sure that you're qualified to do this. We'll just check out your history. And yeah, you can just assume the loan.
Wow.
We can literally have these conversations with the banks and assume the loan with multifamily. Why? Because the value is based on the income. It's based on the income that it brings.
Yeah, not your personal situation.
Not the personal situation. It's based on the income. So if you have experience, if you have the experience or you have somebody on the team with the experience, then they'll approve you. You can just assume the loan. That's why I love creative financing, even at the hotel level, because it's easier to do. It's actually a normal conversation. Does it have a loan? Oh, awesome. Is it assumable? It's not? All right, bet. All right, we'll get on a lender.
Yeah.
That's next to, or at first, is it assumable? Yes, awesome. We're going to assume.
And you're helping students have all these conversations.
Oh yeah, we're helping students have all these conversations, and they got to know what questions to ask, of course, and of course how to have these conversations. A lot of our students now, most of them are still 1 to 4 units. 1 to 4 units. See, with the sellers there, most of those sellers don't even know much about creative financing at all. Yeah. They don't even know that it's even an option to sell creative finance or sell creatively, and so we will come in and we'll have to educate them on some level. But I will jump on a Zoom call with my student and help them with the seller make the offer or structure the deal. And it's one of my favorite things to do, because if I do it with one of my students 2 or 3 times, the next time they don't need me to do it anymore. The next time it's just, hey, I just put another one under contract. I know how to have the conversations now. So I love doing it, and I get pretty geeky with it too.
So if you guys are interested in getting TJ's help, getting his team's help, then you're going to go to fearlesskyle.com/pick your coach. We talk about all the time. TJ is one of the few coaches that we recommend in this space to be able to level up your business. So TJ, if people aren't necessarily ready to sign up and be a student of yours, but they want to keep on digesting your content,
absolutely,
where can they find you?
IG, definitely tap in on IG at TJ Tijani. My YouTube at TJ Tijani on my YouTube as well. Always posting great content, always adding value. So definitely tap in on there. Shoot me a DM. We'll chop it up with you. Let's see how we can help you buy your next Airbnb with no banks, no credit, no income, none of that stuff. It's awesome,
bro. You're awesome. I love that we're hanging out in Cabo here. Love that we're having a good time with feeding into students and helping a bunch of people. But I love all the things you're doing with hotels, with creative financing, with everything short-term rentals. So thanks for helping our audience today to conquer the world of short-term rentals. I appreciate it, brother.
It's been great. This is my second time here. It's not going to be my last time, I'm sure. I'm excited. So appreciate you having me, brother. It's been awesome.
Hey, by the way, TJ Tijani is also one of our coaches that we recommend. So if you want to get some help from TJ Tijani, then go ahead and go to fearlesskyle.com/pick your coach. You can check out what he has to offer, and you can go ahead and get one-on-one and mastermind work with TJ in his group. All right, that's going to do it today for the Fearless Investor Podcast. We're helping you to conquer the world of short-term rentals. We'll see you next time.